Welcome back, Cat 37. CATIA surfacing. Today we're going to be trimming. Okay, so we're going to be using the vertical saw to trim. Okay, so what is trimming? With respect to splitting, let's compare it. So trimming is basically the join and split command combined into one. That's all it is. It's just a shortcut. Splitting and joining may take a few extra steps, but it's actually easier to follow. Trimming, yeah, it's a shortcut, but it can be confusing. And it can also cause problems if your surfaces or curves change orientation. What's the top? What's the bottom? Sometimes things will flip on you and it may give you problems trying to update a trim and any of its dependents. Okay, so let's do trim. To get to trim, we just need to go to the drop down to get to the vertical saw. Okay, so let's go ahead and download the file, and we're going to be using the vertical saw for trimming. All right, let me change the color on this one, the background. I'm going to go to Tools, Options. I'm going to go with the dark background, so go to General, Display, Visualization tab. I'm going to go with the dark blue, the default, and OK. All right, so I'm going to insert my own geoset. Right-click Properties. And I'm going to create my own, I'm going to pick my own color. I'll pick blue for surfaces, and I'll pick cyan, make them thick so they stand out, and OK for my curves. All right, so there it goes. So we're going to trim. Okay, so we're going to trim these two surfaces. So what it's going to do is one will split the other and then join them into one. Okay, so that's basically what we're doing. And we have the option of picking which portions we want to keep. Okay, so let's go on. Okay, so let's split these two surfaces and join using the trim command. Okay, so below the join command, we have split, trim. Okay, so once again, trim is a combination of split and join. So let's go ahead and trim. Okay, so we're going to pick the portions we want to keep. I want to keep this portion and that portion. Okay, hit preview. Okay, and OK. So there's our result. Okay, so it took this surface, and since we selected the top portions, it kept those patches. We can always go back and double click and say, no, I don't want the top portions, I want the bottom. Or I can always use the other side buttons. I'll just physically click on the portions I want to keep. And OK, there it is. Okay, so it split the two surfaces and joined them as one entity. All right, let's move on. Okay, now we're going to do the trim command on the circle and the line. And we're going to use the surface as our support, so it will project it onto the surface. Okay, so let's go back. Okay, so let's use trim again. I'm going to select the circle and select the line. It's giving us a warning to double check, all right, and OK. And there's the result. I picked the wrong side of the line. I should pick the inside. So let's go back, double click on it. And I'm going to select the inside. I don't want the outer portions of the line. Close. And I can say, hey, I want this on a support. So if it's not already lying on the support, it'll project it onto our support. And OK. And there's the result. All right, let's move on to the next one. Okay, so here we have a surface and another surface, and they don't actually intersect. They touch. It seems at a tangent point, and we want to remove this portion. So let's go ahead and do the trim on these two surfaces. By the way, you can always right click inside a window in the middle of the command to create supporting geometry on the fly. All right, so let's go ahead and go back to CATIA. Okay, so here are the two surfaces. All right, so let's use trim. So once again, these are not intersecting each other. They're tangent to each other. So let's see what happens. So let's go to trim. We want to keep this portion. And here, we want to keep the whole thing. And click. And it's just giving us a warning. Hey, it's a little ambiguous. Double check. Okay. And preview. And it's not removing the bottom portion. Okay, it's not removing the bottom portion. So we're going to go to remove. Okay, this is when we can right click and create geometry on the fly to help us remove a portion of the surface. Or I can simply click on the existing point that we have here, or we can even select the corner or vertex. Okay, so we have an option to pick this existing point, and whichever portion of the surface is closest to it, it'll remove that portion. I'll just pick the vertex. See, and now it's removing this portion. Okay, and there it is. We have our surfaces. So we did a split and join in one, and this is the trim command. All right, so let's move on. Okay, it's just explaining here, we don't have this in the CATIA model. We already did this one, and on this one, we don't have this one, but it's telling us, hey, if a surface is shorter than the other and it doesn't cut all the way through, it's going to automatically extrapolate to trim off the excess on the larger surface. Okay, so let's move on. Okay, we're going to end this with these three circles. Okay, so we're going to select these three circles, and our goal is to end up with this shape at the bottom. Okay, so let's go back. So we're going to use pieces. So we're going to use the pieces mode, which only works with curves. Okay, so we're going to go to the drop down. When we go to the trim command, go to the drop down and choose the pieces mode. And hopefully we'll be able to get this result. All right, so let's go back. Okay, so here are the pieces. Okay, looks like we have a duplicate. Looks like we have copies of copies. So let me hide the standard trim geoset. Okay, so there we go. We have these three circles intersecting each other. Okay, so I'm going to use the pieces trim. There's the three circles. Okay, so I'm going to pick the portions I want to keep. Okay, so let's go to trim. And I'm going to go to pieces mode, and I'm going to select the portions I want to keep. I'm going to keep this portion, that portion, this one, this one, this one, and this one. Okay, looks good. And okay, ta-da, we got it. Okay, so there's trim. And we're done with this tutorial. Okay, so don't forget to save, and that's the end of this video.